Welcome back to the channel, guys. So today, as you can see, the engine is off the rack and it's on the floor. We finally got the transmission on the Gen 4. I have a few videos in between putting it together, which I'll share with you guys now. But for the most part, you know, Craig and I were here and we were just kind of just chilling, having a good day, and didn't want to be too bothered with filming. So honestly, we just did a few bits and pieces here and there. So right now, as you can see, the engine is already assembled with the transmission, but let me show you quickly how we got here and then I'll come back with you guys. All right, guys, so we got Craig back in the house and we just finished up the Gen 4 rear main seal. So that's the new one. If you are into your Gen 4, all right, let me get this light on, hold on. What happened to my light? Here you go. So there's the old seal. I mean, they always look bad when you take them out because you destroy them taking them out. But always put a new seal, guys. It's worth it. It's not worth putting together all of this work to have your rear main seal. So we got that done. We're gonna go through the plate on and then get the clutch, flywheel, everything on now, and then get the transmission bolted up. All right, so that's the plate. You see Craig is putting on the plate. Just remove that from your Gen 2 3S GTE. Or your 5S, whatever your swap is. I've seen guys put the flywheel on, put the transmission on, only to realize that they forgot that plate and then they got to do the whole thing all over again. So don't forget about that. And you just throw a little bit of hand tightening on it. No need to go crazy on it. And that's it. All right, now we're gonna get the flywheel. Next process, bolts are treated with red Loctite. So we got the red Loctite on them here. And we're gonna put them in, we clean the surface of the flywheel, and then we're going to torque these things to 75 foot-pounds. So if you're using your 3S GT Gen 2, you can reuse these flywheel bolts. If it's a 5S, you got to get the 3S GT bolts. But in our case, we didn't have to purchase anything new, but these will work just fine. Good to go?
Yes, sir.
Kind of a crisscross pattern. There's one. Alright. Did you know they had a torque wrench work?
Yep.
Harbor Freight Special. This kind of bar with this icon on.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's Harbor Freight, no?
Yeah,
That's where they're
yeah.
from? Oh, this one, the man with the app?
Top up. All right, so hopefully you guys got caught up on that. It was a process getting that transmission on, honestly. I had some guide bolts that I used to kind of slide the transmission on. but for whatever reason, they work great to the S54, the E153, which is a heavier transmission. Just wasn't working, so we finally gave up on the guide bolts and just lifted the thing and just threw it on, and it worked out, and we got all the bolts in. So we got the flywheel, clutch, pressure plate, everything as you just saw. New throat bearing was installed as well, torqued everything up, and the transmission is on. Now I'm gonna go put the belts on here. So let's see, we got the alternator belt, which I believe is this one. I use these bando belts, they're pretty cool. I like them, they're very flexible. I think they work really well. You can actually get these on Rock Auto. So that one is gonna go right here for our alternator. So I'm gonna go ahead and install that. And then we have the one for the AC, which is, there you go, that's the part number, 4PK890. So that one goes right here, and that is for the AC compressor. So let's go ahead and throw these on. For the AC compressor, well actually let me do the alternator first. But this one is pretty simple, but let me just show you how the alternator one works. All right, so for the alternator, you're basically gonna take your belt. I like to kind of get everything lined up so I can read this thing. Small detail, doesn't really matter, but you guys know me, if you follow along, I like to do it, you know, something you can look at and be proud of. So simply get this on, and I'm gonna have to pull this bolt a little bit, so I wanna slide this forward some more. So we're gonna loosen this bolt. Let me do that. And I'll slip this belt on and tighten it up. Okay, so we're almost there. We just gotta get this out a little bit more. Just we don't need to go too much, because all we want to do is bring this alternator a little bit more forward so we can get this belt on just like that. And there you go. It's on right here and it's on up there. So now all we gotta do is tighten this thing up to set the tension. Now, the question is, how do you know when to stop? Now, what I like to do is, when I turn this belt, it should not be able to go all the way around like that. I want to turn it so I have enough tension that it can only go like about a 45 degree. I mean, the bandos are pretty flexible, so if you push it really hard, you'll get it to go like this, but ideally I want it like this. So I'm going to tighten it up. I'll come back. I'll show you how I've set it. Because there's always a question, how tight do you make this? And a lot of you guys, if you have MR2s, you know when you wash your car, the water comes down right here, gets on the belt. You get that squeaking noise for 2-3 seconds and it goes away. And that has to do with however you've tensioned this belt. All right, so I'm feeling pretty good about how this is tensioned right now. So if I go like this, not too much force, and you see, I kind of get it at a 45 degree. Now, as I mentioned before, you really put some muscle into it, you can kind of get it to a full 90 degree turn. But ideally, you want to go like this and just kind of get it at a 45. You can also push down on it. I'm sure the book probably has you go down a couple millimeters, but I think this is right about good, where I'm comfortable. And when you tighten these bolts up here, this one and the lower bolt, it helps to tighten this up a little bit too, so I don't go crazy on this belt, because one, you can ruin the bearing in the alternator, and ideally, I just want to get it right. I'm going to lock this bolt in place now that I have the tension. So I'm just going to come up and just going to tighten this as best as you can. You don't have to go crazy, just enough to lock it. All right, and we're also going to come down and we're going to do the lower bolt right here. We're going to tighten that up, and this install is good. And there you have it. Again, once you tighten it up, tension is looking pretty good. So we're done here. Let's move on to the next belt. All right, so we got the next belt, which is for the AC. So again, I'm going to line up all my markings so I can read them. So again, you know, just small detail. And we're gonna bring this thing, basically we're gonna drop it on a crank, pull it right here. And it goes on the AC pulley. And I'll just start from the top and work it down. Just like that. Okay, so slip that on. Now we're gonna tighten this bolt on the top. And I'll show you what that's gonna do. It's basically gonna pull this bracket up. So if you tighten this down, basically it lifts this bracket up, and that's how you get the tension. And once you get the right tension, which we'll do the same thing we did, getting that belt twisted 45 degrees, and this is the nut that we'll use to lock it in place. So let me throw the wrench up here and get that done. All right, we're gonna test it out. I feel a bit of tension. That's good. It's a little bit loose. So I'm probably gonna throw a little bit more in there because see, you can go a little bit all too far. I want it to be able, and it's a feel, so I can easily turn it like that. I want to feel some kickback when I turn it, so I'll tighten this up a little bit more. Then we'll just go ahead and lock this in place. All right, final process. We're gonna lock this thing in place. I'm just gonna put some torque on here, locks that up. And you know, again, guys, these videos may seem simple sometimes, but the visual of having the engine out and kind of seeing how this works really helps you when you're working, you know, with the engine in the car and trying to figure out what it is. This is just a good visual. So you saw all the adjustment points right over there for the alternator, right up there for the AC compressor belt, and that's it. So this side of the engine is done. We got, as I mentioned, the transmission in, so it's in, everything is bolted. The only thing I have left now is to finish up the axles, which I did get the axles here. So I gotta go and get these rebuilt, which I'll do a video hopefully next week. And then I gotta figure out the wiring, because this was a 91 Gen 4 MR2 harness, and we gotta convert it to a 94. But yeah, making some progress. Once I have that wrapped up, honestly, we can get Uncle Kevin's car and just put the engine in, because everything would be packaged nicely. But I always love to see a 3S GTE, especially looking like this. I don't know, I just think it's a beautiful engine, but maybe I'm crazy, but that's just what I like. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Be good and have fun with your MR2, guys.